so that we're live and ready to roll, and then we'll just let people dial in a little bit. Welcome everyone to the John Lavenia Success Mastermind General Session for Tuesday, the 12th of January. We'll kick off in a minute or so. Everyone's dialing in, so just letting them dial. Wonderful to have you here as we embark on 2021, the good ship 2021. I will just mute all the mics, just in case there's any background noise. That gives me a fantastic sense of power. I feel like the guy with the white cat in James Bond at this point. That's got everybody smiling, hopefully, anyway. Ivier has taken over the alternate Tuesday slot, as we've just been saying. So I'm looking forward to that. But unfortunately, she's not speaking till next Tuesday, so I'd better keep talking. Mark thinks I'm joking. I only put these jokes in usually for Mark's benefit, by the way, but where is he? I don't see him yet. He's hiding on the second screen somewhere, I think. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about perspective and how you see a problem, or how the way you see a problem or the world can change it. And here's a saying to kick off with about perspective that I found. Perspective: the optimist says the glass is half full. The pessimist says the glass is half empty. The engineer says the vessel contains twice the required space for the volume present. That's a very interesting illustration of the problem. Each of those statements is true, but only one of the perspectives represented in those three statements is likely to actually help you progress, break out, and do new and better things. I always, on another take on that problem, remember a poster campaign in the UK. I'm not sure if EVA or anyone else in the UK remembers this, but there was a picture on one side of a man running towards us, apparently about to grab a woman's handbag. But we then see the same image from behind, and he's actually running to push her out of the way of a large falling object. Of course, our bias and our perspective immediately kicked in on the first shot, and we thought this man was a bag snatcher. So often we don't check our assumptions and our perspective, and we don't reassess. And as I said in a previous talk, you can stand four people, one in front of each different side of a house. They're all going to see things differently. We don't always take the trouble then to reassess what we've seen, what we've thought, and why, and to reassess and reprocess, to consider all the angles, to check our biases and what I call our baked-in attitudes. My perspectives are shaken every day at the moment and challenged as I hear a new story of people suffering hardship. On Friday, for example, I was told about a man who's living in very difficult conditions, and he only has one leg. He's in pretty dire straits, but he dreams of saving up to buy an artificial leg. And to make that dream more real for him, he got hold of a bicycle. So he can dream of riding it. Imagine that. It sits there actually propped up next to him in his room against the wall. I sat there for quite a while contemplating that and saying, is my perspective right? Do I really have obstacles? I mean, real ones? Or are they actually only difficulties? Can I put them in perspective? Wow. To be honest, most of us have no real problems sometimes. We just think we have. And in our dimension, in our current situation, we can let it all seem overwhelming. But sometimes if we stand back, we do a reset, we can reassess, and we can cut things back down to size. We can actually change our viewpoint and our strategy, and then we can break through. So how we perceive ourselves, our own value, our own world can change everything instantly. And this is, once again, a very personal thing. We're all different. Of course, we're all different. Mark might see an opportunity from his perspective. From mine, I might see the same thing as an obstacle. And we've always got to bear this in mind. How are we looking today through the lens? Can we change our perspective and our viewpoint? Of course, yes, we can. The real trick is to know and to realize that we actually need to, rather than unconsciously progressing, unaware that we need to. Do you think you're aware of this? Am I aware of it? I certainly know I have to check myself sometimes and pull myself up and rethink bias, judgments, baked in judgments. I do that all the time. And then I realized afterwards I was completely wrong. Here's a poem that I found about generating a new perspective. Found this on the internet, unattributed. An amazing thing happens when you get honest with yourself and start doing what you love, what makes you happy. You stop wishing for the weekend. You stop merely looking forward to special events. You begin to live in each moment, and you start feeling like a human being. You just ride the wave that is life with this feeling of contentment and joy. You move fluidly, steadily, calm, and grateful. A veil is lifted, and a whole new perspective is born. And I really love that about perspective and that summary of perspective. And here the poet generated an entirely new perspective just by being honest with herself or himself about their current condition and situation. And they started doing what they love, and they started to see life and the day in a different way. So that to me was a great reminder. And then again, Coral hit the nail on the head during Ivier's general session on the 30th of December. By the way, that was conducted by Ivier in a parked car. First time I've seen that. And in a tunnel by the looks of the presentation when I saw it live. It was great. Thank you, Ivier. We were all during that talk or after that talk discussing introverts and extroverts. And Coral asked me, well, why on earth did I pick an extrovert career, because I was a lawyer at one point, if I was an introvert? Because you have to overcome the obstacles in front of you to reach the goals you actually really desire. I just changed my perspective. I had to change it. I was the guy who would never have been comfortable making a presentation. But at the time, with my new perspective, I had to be the guy standing alone in front of the courtroom. And I now had to be that guy in my mind. So now I had to think, how am I going to go about it? Not whether, but how. I am talking in front of many people in the courtroom. What am I going to do? They're listening to me and they wish to be informed. So I needed a new perspective. It's me now looking at them, not them looking at me. I'm selling to them now. I'm selling them a message. They're my audience for my message. And that's the message that right at that moment I wanted to give them. There's no try now. I have to sell. They're listening to me. They're not looking at me. So I think about listening and delivering, and I change my perspective. I hope that makes sense to everyone, but I really would love to hear your thoughts on that. So note that down if you've got any thoughts on that when we open the floor. Cyril mentioned a similar thing the other day when he shared another of his experiences about when he decided to go into dancing. He just launched himself into it. He had to overcome his fears and his shyness and change his perspective. And if we're lucky, we might hear from Cyril about that when we open the floor. And, you know, Cyril is a person who's managed to change his perspective several times during his life and then to completely retrain as his perspective and new circumstances required. And that included changing his life perspective and dealing with issues that were left with him from a difficult upbringing in his early years. Cyril, really thank you for sharing all your experiences and perspectives over these past months, and everybody else that's done so, particularly the more difficult ones, because it does bring me up short and say, wait a minute, is my perspective right when I hear these things? Another thing we know about perspective, our perspective must not be too narrow or constraining. All boats will float on the high tide, but only if they have enough rope to allow them to rise with the tide. So you've got to give yourself space. We have to allow ourselves change and development room. That requires courage. It requires a leap out of the comfort zone. It requires trying new things, trying on new thoughts, and trying on new opinions. Because to start with or stick to the wrong perspective just doesn't give us enough rope or development room. To develop, we need to broaden, widen our outlook and our horizons. Look in history. If we keep on insisting that the earth is flat and that's our perspective, then we're not going to attempt to get to the edge of it because we're too afraid. That's what perspective can do. Another thing we need to know about changing and checking our perspective is the Einstein saying yet again, as Einstein put it, repeating the same behaviors and patterns will generate the same result. So in effect, if you do that, you're relying on chance to generate change. Chance is the only thing left that's going to change anything, because you're doing the same thing the same way and you're likely to get the same outcome. So let's not leave it to chance. If you're happy, well, ask if you're happy really with the current result, the current position, the current outcome. If you're not, then we all have to work back and identify the required changes. We've got to find them. Because if we just repeat again and again the same things we did before, we're going to get the same result in all likelihood. And there are many examples of that. Mixing with or going out with the same type of people again and again. Looking for the same type of life partner again and again. Looking in the same places. Running the same routines. Learning the same things again and again and again. And no new knowledge. Just opting out and not learning every day. That is a repeat behavior as well. We have to make changes and change our perspective in order to generate new habits and new thoughts. And that is going to generate chain reactions of many changes and many results. And look at what John told us to do yesterday. John yesterday exhorted us to create enthusiasm and mastery of whatever it was we were doing. Great presentation, John. I really enjoyed that. Changing our perspectives and our behavior can allow us to generate that energy, that enthusiasm, and that mastery. But then again, let's not forget what we've said many times already also. Do it your way. Don't worry about everyone else's way. Your perspective is your perspective and it belongs to you. Just perhaps check that it's reasonable and it's healthy, because that can derail you. But try things your way. Try the routines and steps that please you and strike a chord with you, because it's your journey. And I looked at a song and looked at the words of Christina Aguilera. She said, "You are beautiful, no matter what they say. You are beautiful in every single way. Yes, words can't bring you down. So go your way within your perspective and ignore those words or arrows of other people." That's another important thing. But remember also what we've talked about on negativity and the subconscious. Remember that you're receiving signals into your subconscious constantly every day. Some of those signals are guaranteed to be negative or trash signals. And we've spoken about these bad signals before many, many times. We have to look at our perspective to reprogram our responses to these bad signals in order to change our perspective when we start processing them and getting a different outcome. If we can shift our whole perspective when we're receiving negativity thrown at us, it will just bounce off us, much like a badly tuned signal that just doesn't hit the receiving dish and doesn't get in. So by changing perspective, we can avoid perpetuating the same responses to the same things time and time again. But it does, of course, require practice and reprogramming our minds, our mental patterns. We've got to ask ourselves sometimes, what is it that makes us feel negative, and why is that? Are we looking at it from the wrong angle, therefore? Similarly, what makes us immediately feel failure or fear failure? What can just snatch away our high spirits and knock us down in an instant? Is that to do with the perspective we're putting on it or approaching it with? Is there somebody who can have an immediate negative or damping effect on you? Possibly yes. These are all very, very common responses and situations in a day. They're not unusual, but it's how we deal with them that will change things for us in this group. Are we looking from the wrong angle? We can actually take an inventory of our responses, check back. We can look at our circumstances. We can check what it is that we loathe or fear. We can reprogram all those auto responses that come with the wrong perspective. And we can look at the people and circumstances we respond to, and we can overcome our own self-made obstacles. Most of them are self-made. We impose them on ourselves because of the mindset and the perspective we've set down and we followed perhaps slavishly for too long. But to do what is necessary to progress forward, this is what it takes. We've got to do this in a determined way. And if something or someone is undermining my mood or morale, it's very hard to change and do what I need to do. I have to remove that thorn and I have to rearmor myself against the next thorn to get forward. The other element for me in changing and maintaining behaviors and keeping things in the right perspective is my daily exchanges with the right people. And that's what makes me vibrate, as we call it, at a higher level. I need humor, I need happiness, and I need friendship every day in order to reach a higher level of mindset and awareness to be able to perform. If anyone's in doubt about that, just try a few experiments on a few days and see what happens. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to hear those thoughts on this in a few minutes when we open the floor, if anyone has any thoughts. If anyone disconnects when you hear all of us talking about vibrations and higher level vibrations, I really don't blame you. It is hard to explain. I know when I feel it, though. Perhaps we might hear from Nancy, Therese, or Nicola about vibrations when we open the floor in a minute. I'd be very interested in their take on what it does to them and how they create them. But when it happens to me, I feel a higher level of energy, an enthusiasm, of creativity. I feel a joy. I feel a sort of inner smile. Perhaps, if it's really working, a massive inner broad grin. We might call it something like a buzz. These higher level vibrations can put us in the mood to do literally anything, to break down any barriers. So for me, the people and activities we engage with give us the perspectives that put us in the right place to experience these feelings and these vibrations. But a note of caution, we know that changing our perspective might come as a shock to those around us. And some of you have already seen this. As we reject an old mindset or an old set of beliefs to change perspective, this could actually cause visible changes in our responses to what is expected of us by others or what we're asked to do by others. But know this for certain, it's okay to say no as you change perspective. Get ready in advance to say no and work out the circumstances where you're likely to have to say no so it comes out automatically. You probably will have to start saying no to people. It's such a simple idea, but yet we all aim to please, we try and say yes, we take on too much, we do what other people want us to do. But that is going to dilute your efforts getting to your goals and doing what John exhorted us to do yesterday. So we can make a perspective checklist, we can make some checks. One, a bias check. Am I automatically responding in a biased way? Secondly, negativity type check. Am I suffering programmed in auto negativity? Am I responding to something automatically in a negative way, or is it making me feel that way? Elmer gave us an example yesterday when he urged us or suggested to us that we make a mindset reset. He said switch excitement for anxiety. That's what he did. Thirdly, we could do a preconception check. Have I got a standard embedded approach or procedure and action that I never challenge and assess? I just keep using it. Is that holding me back? It could badly affect my progress and my productivity. Fourthly, a perspective and a scale check. If a one-legged man can dream of riding a bicycle, or as I mentioned recently, a Down syndrome man can do an Ironman triathlon, by improving 1% a day, is our perspective flawed? Is our thinking out of scale? Are we making a mountain out of a molehill? Is our situation actually perhaps much better than we're admitting or realizing? Are we weighing ourselves down with obstacles that we're exaggerating in our own minds? We've got to ask ourselves all of these things all the time. Is it time to do a perspective check? Is it time to retune? And finally, and Mark breathed a huge sigh of relief when I said finally, I'm sure. Finally, I have to remind myself every day that departing from today's topic, though, that everything revolves for me around daily love and daily laughter. Because amidst all these checks, perspectives, and approaches, we all need to reach out and find love and laughter. And I promise you it's out there. I personally feel on fire and full of enthusiasm because of the love and laughter generated within this group. And as I said to somebody this morning, I must now weave with that and with the lucky threads of privilege that I've been given everything that I can do in the future. So thank you very, very much for listening today, and really enjoyed talking about this, and would love to hear you now as we open up the floor and get your perspective. Thank you. So who's going to dive in? I'm seeing all the familiar faces lurking behind the cameras there. John has joined us. Hi, John. Therese is going to pile in. Therese, great to
Hi.
great to hear you.
I'm still digesting your words, but I just wanted to be the first one because I don't think I would do that. So thank you, Adrian. Beautiful words. I love to think about the friend that you met that has one leg and purchased the shiny red bicycle with intent to ride. I mean, it really just, it's like shaking the carpet out the window, or or like shaking the sheets out, or whatever that visual is of just shaking the dust off and regrouping is so nice, right? And it takes daily practice to for myself anyway, daily practice to set your mind, let go of the negative. And even throughout the day, it needs to be this, for me, a constant series of resets and rechecks. And I think it's a little bit easier when I'm able to go outside and exercise that really tunes me in for the day. So I think I really like surround yourself with the people that bring you joy and laughter, right? Choose the inspiration, choose the energy around you. And of course, for me, I really love that it's okay to say no. And I definitely, in this past year or so, it's been, a lot of people have fallen by the wayside. Naturally, I haven't even actually had to say no, which is kind of interesting. So, so I don't know. It's a beautiful topic, lovely. You always pull things in from past conversations, which is really impressive. And I want your brain power. Thank you, Adrian.
Therese, that's very kind. No, I just find it so useful to do a double take when people start talking in this group on these sessions, and to rethink what we're doing. And that's part of the value of a mastermind group. Therese, do you actually get the vibration sensation? Do you know when you're in a good set of vibrations? Can you describe what happens, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll well up in tears. I feel just like this inner glow, I guess is the best way to explain it. And I mean, I feel like that when I go out the door every day, if I'm on foot. If I'm in my car, I can still appreciate what's going on around me. But I mean, if I'm heading out for a walk, if I'm walking over to the grocery store, there's not one thing. I mean, if the wind blows, I notice how the wind moves through my hair. If the sun hits my face, or the sun hits my skin, I mean, how that feels brings me to that place. So it happens for me every day. I think for me, the challenge is keeping it there, holding it there, even when I'm inside, and even when I'm approaching tasks on my list. I think bringing that glow into every single thing, like, I get to do this. It's not I have to do this. I get to do this. How amazing is that, right? I've recreated my life in a year. I mean, it's been 4 years of like leaving this whole world that I came from. And I think I've been snipping the threads, if you will, of my attachment to that life. And I hate to say it, but I mean, in a way, I defined myself by that industry, by that career, by the people that I was surrounded with. And I don't think I was very connected to my true self in some ways. So it's just been interesting. I've managed to slowly snap those threads from the past and move myself into, I think, more of my true self. And it's a gift. I get to do this. The difficulties are gifts. And I think holding that like inner light and that glow, and the joy of just like being able to breathe, I think is amazing. They're just little silly things that get in the way. I don't know.
Great, Therese.
I have both legs. I have both arms. I can see, I can listen to all of you, and that's amazing. I get to connect with all of you every day. So I think that's what I want to hold with me each day.
That's wonderful, Therese. Wonderful. We get to do this. You're right. It's a gift. We get to do this. We get to choose to do this. How great is that? I can just feel the joy coming out of you. That's brilliant. Thank you, Therese.
Thanks, Adrian.
And we have John next up. John, it's great to see you.
Hey, Adrian and everybody, good to see you all. I'm excited to have some perspective, right? So thank you for introducing that word. It's come up for me a few times already today. In fact, while I was working out this morning, I was listening to like a mindset training on for salespeople on how to essentially get into a peak state before you engage with your client or whoever you're communicating with. And while I could say that I didn't get any new information out of it because I've been studying this stuff for 30 years, I got some reminders, which I can always use. And one of the things that I sometimes remember to do to enhance my perspective is something that I wrote about in my first book, which is to not only create a gratitude list, which I think Therese was just alluding to, but also an integrity list. So here are the things I did right. Here are the things I didn't screw up. Here are the resourceful things or the wins or the people who I've helped or the testimonials I've received, right? To remind me of how effective I actually am when I'm intentional, right? When I'm noticing. And a lot of times I think I don't notice. And it was interesting too, because the speaker was talking about like actually standing up like a superhero, like your Wonder Woman or Superman or something, and standing up, shoulders back, right? Like you got your cape on and you're like super Adrian, right? Or everybody needs to go ahead and pick out a superhero name now because that's who's showing up. That's who's showing up to do this job. And if we can have this perspective, who the hell is calling me right now? So if we can have this perspective, right? Like Allie, is like super Allie, right? She's got her cape, and she's going to come fly and save the day and provide all this benefit, to people who are fortunate enough to have her. Right? I was just looking at Allie right now. But like, we deserve to feel that way about ourselves. Right? I mean, if you're a good ethical person, right? And if you're taking action to whatever degree you're taking action, then you've got some integrity, right? You're putting your intention into action, into use. And of course, we've been reading this Steve Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We covered habit 3 last night. And my apologies to everyone who was on that broadcast last night. I was completely spent. Like my eyes were starting to hurt all day, 12 hours straight on the computer screen. So I'm not here to mentor you on like balance in life. I'll let you know when I figure that one out. But I was getting stuff done as Super John, right? And the show must go on and all this kind of stuff. And I had all these different irons in the fire yesterday. And so part of being a superhero is also knowing that you've got support, right? Like, Batman, well, he wasn't really a superhero. He had gadgets, right? But he had, was it Alfred, right? And the other guys, making the machinery for him. And then, Superman had Lois Lane, right? And but he also had kryptonite. All right. So can we identify, I guess that's a perspective. Can we identify that which empowers us and that which disempowers us? That which enhances my perspective and is a more pleasing perspective, a more resourceful perspective versus that which diminishes it and causes us to retract or to make less of ourselves. Because I think that's really what it comes down to. Are we making more or less of ourselves? I had somebody today use a word that I hadn't heard in a long time, where decrement. I had to look it up. To diminish or make less of. Yeah, that's what it means, right? So interesting that word came up today. It's a word that also gives me perspective on stuff. How much decrement am I sitting in right now? Not excrement, but decrement. I got to stop talking because I'm not even making sense. Thank you, Adrian, for all you provide here. Thank you, sir.
John, that made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense. And, I think you're the sort of person that regularly does a double take stock check and says, hey, have I got the right perspective? Am I doing the right things? Because you're going to get forward. I know you're going to move forward, whatever happens, John, but all of us have to keep an inventory and say on this gratitude and integrity list, what worked? How did we fill it up with the right things? Was it the right perspective? Have I gone off track? Yeah, great, John. Thanks very much. Julia is very kindly putting a hand up. Thanks, Julia. Lovely to see you with us.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. And I mean that literally. I feel so lucky to be alive in this time of global pandemic and all the rest of that. And I think your opening comments about changing our perspective really struck me. One thing that I have never liked is winter, ever since I was little and freezing in Chicago when little girls had to wear skirts to school. And I have had such a negative attitude toward it. And I live in Iowa, and we get colder than parts of Alaska in the winter, which shocks me, but it's true. And when my mother died she was barely 61, that was a shakeup for me. And I know I've talked about it before in other aspects, but what I'm trying to do now, because my husband encourages me to think of winter in a positive way, I think about the fact that I'm alive and I can feel that bitter cold on my cheeks. I can feel it. When I'm dead, I'll feel nothing. You know, my mother no longer gets to feel anything, and she was buried in California, nice warm California. But I'm here and I'm alive, and I try. I really, some days I'm successful, some days I'm not. But I try to appreciate winter, and that was a big perspective change for me, much like perhaps it was for you to look at the people in the courtroom and think, I'm looking at them. They're not. It's not them looking at me. So perspective is huge. And the other thing I wanted to thank you for was that beautiful line about the lucky threads of privilege that have been given to me, because I think every one of us here who was, I think probably all of us were able to afford Sophie's class and afford to be a part of this community. And I say afford, including time as well as money. We are very lucky, and those threads of privilege run through all of our lives. And I thank you for that beautiful metaphor.
That's very kind, Julie. You know, that phrase came to me this morning when somebody described to me life as being like a tapestry, which is beautiful on the surface and has a beautiful image on it, but behind it's a mass of knots and threads and a real mess. And actually, that's not a bad take on what we have to do to run around, paddle furiously beneath the surface to do all this e-com and these other things that we're doing now together. But beautiful results can be produced. So that's where the threads came to me, because it was such a great summary from someone that spoke to me this morning. And, you know, Julia, that winter comment is fantastic, because actually we could apply that to what we regard as our business winter when we're sitting there overwhelmed and think we're in a bit bad business winter conditions. Hey, there's opportunity out there. Let's just change our view, as you did with the winter. I love that. I love that. Thank you, Julia. That was a great take on it. Kim, you have your hand up. Great to see you.
Hello. Hi, Adrian. Hi, everyone. Adrian, your topic is really hitting home for me today. So it's a lot of things that actually spoke to me: perspective, the negative response. And but really what stood out was Therese, when she talked about knowing our inner self. And I've always said that about myself, that I know myself very well. And I think that since starting this program, this mastermind group, I have learned so much more about my inner self than I mean, it's just amazing the things that I've learned. And I guess, for example, you know, I want to talk about the negativity and change your perspective. My daughter came over the other day to help me with something, and we used to have a really good relationship, but over the past several years, it's been strained. She's going through some things, and so I'm trying to give her that space. And she seems to be very like passive aggressive. She'll say, I'll be there at 10, and she comes at noon, and just different things like that, you know. And then if you ask her about it, she'll, you know, leap on you, or, you know, attack you, or, you know, challenge you. And so the same scenario happened, you know, on Sunday. And so I thought, you know, I'm just going to give her that space. And so she walked in the door and she said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late. And I said something like, or whatever my attitude was my negative response to her. And boy, she just bammed, well, I can leave right now. And so that just kind of turned into a whole scenario. And I had to walk away. And I went in the other room and I thought, you know what? Let me think of this differently. Obviously she's going through something. And so I just went back in and just said, hey, I said, I understand you're going through something. And I said, if now is not a good time, we can reschedule this. And that just opened up the door for a greater conversation. She didn't really share, but it helped us to process through that in a more healthy manner. So yeah, I definitely, the negative response for me is really speaking to me, because had I not responded that way, right? I mean, it might have went a little bit smoother, but I mean, it did turn out well. But I'm just saying that, it might not have been such a, I don't know, intense situation, right? So, and I learned something, about myself, that, if I back off, and really assess the situation, change my perspective on it, and say, okay, look, this is how I'm seeing it, but let me see it through her eyes. And so I just really feel like that helped a lot. So this really spoke to me today. So thank you.
That's great, Kim. And that's another great example. And, I think you've changed a whole bunch of your perspectives. And when I first remember seeing you, if I may say so, sometimes you appeared anxious and now you appear positive and definite. And I think that's all come from a perspective shift on your part as to what you believe you can do now.
Absolutely.
So it's just fantastic. Thank you, Kim.
You.
Thanks a lot. Cyril is next up. And Cyril, thank you again for all the wonderful shares you've given us, which gave me a whole bunch of perspective checks.
Thank you for your thoughtfulness. And this is an very, very interesting topic for me, because I think my whole life has been about self-development, because I've always felt behind, and it was always about catching up and trying to make the best of myself given the situation and other circumstances. And also life has had a habit of slapping me in the face, or more than that, throughout my life. So and in the understanding and guilt of the mistakes made, and knowing that I could have done it better, or I could have been better, or been able to help somebody in a better way, or but particularly help myself better, to try and improve my life. I've been very much passion led throughout my entire life, whether it was my need for, and for example, one area might be just finding an opposite, finding a partner was a struggle at a very early, at a young age. I mean, when I say young age at this stage, I mean in my teens and 20s, and I had to completely rework the way I think, and address, well, not completely rework, but basically work at changing myself, to be realizing that the mountain is not going to come to Muhammad, and realizing the psychology of the average person. We are biased to see other people in the light of how they react to us, and if your reactions are due to your life different, you are seen as different. So, and not necessarily as somebody they might like. So in terms of, just to be able to change the way I approach things, so that I might be seen in a different light, but also to progress emotionally and mentally past.
Oh, you've dropped off there, Cyril. I think we've temporarily lost Cyril there. Can you hear us, Cyril? I will just comment in case Cyril comes back in there, but that was very profound. I'm going to have to really process that, Cyril. I'm so sorry you got cut off, because that's a great take on all of this. But the self-criticism angle, we shouldn't criticize ourselves for these things. We should just plug in the lessons to change the perspective and do them better next time. Am I better tomorrow than I was yesterday? That's all I should worry about now. A quote that was handed to me by a mentor and a wonderful man when I was 13 years old was, "It's not because we are wise today that we were foolish yesterday." And I've always remembered that. We learn as we go. We do what we can at the time with the knowledge we have then, but we can always improve and learn the lessons from what's gone wrong. So this mention Cyril's just made of self-criticism is very, very close to my heart. Cyril, I'm not sure. I think you dropped off there. I'm not sure if you're back on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, yes, I don't know what happened, because I have heard you perfectly throughout, but obviously my line must be a bit faulty. Yes. I found I've usually been on the back foot. I've needed to move forward and to try and make something of my life, to try and change what the past has made me into something I would want to be, or to be closer to how I can be, to find my potential. Has always been ridden high in my thinking. So yes, so I thank you for your observation, and I thank you for your input. I found it very touching. Thank you.
Well, Cyril, that's great take. That's given us all a lot to think about. That's profound. There's nothing better than hearing from someone that's done it and lived it, because those are the true lessons that we can all draw on. And that's the power of the mastermind group. Again, there's so many different experiences in this group that wonderful people are sharing. Those can help us all without having ever lived them. So thanks, Cyril. That's just wonderful.
Adrian, I don't think I've done it. In no way do I feel I've done it. I may have moved forward from my past, but I haven't. I've never felt I've actually reached potential.
Well, Cyril, we all believe in you.
Thank you.
We all believe in you. And you know what? You're on the cusp, because you've done so much. You've got all that experience to throw in now to your goals. It's just focusing on those goals. And as John said yesterday, let's just get some mastery of whatever it is we're going to do and go for it with full enthusiasm. And you can do that, Cyril. We all believe in you. We all believe in you. So great to hear from you. We're going to go across to Janet now. Hi, Janet. Janet, who has the most wonderful sense of humor, I think, of everybody in the group.
Well, thank you, Adrian. I've been lucky enough. My mother told me I always woke up in the morning with a smile on my face. And I think that's a very, very lucky thing, that I tend to be a very positive person. But when I was especially ill or tired, I was very negative. So a lot for me has to do with my physicality, and feeling up. And the thing that you said, the shaman of Peru, and I was with them about 6 years ago, is, you want to change your circumstances, change your perspective. And that's, everything that you said and everybody else has said, that's so true. It's just, a lot of it's the way we look at it, not the way it is. And we need to, I think starting there is a really good thing. Kim, you, with your story with your daughter, brought to mind a story that I want to share. So I used to think that change was very gradual, that it had to happen over a long period of time. And that isn't necessarily so. My mother had passed away just a couple weeks ahead. I had asked my husband to come and stay with my dad while I was still working on my teaching thing. And so he did. And then I was here, and my dad was, yesterday you did this and you something else that, and I said, and I don't know what possessed me, but I said, you know, Dad, we're both in the same place. We're both missing Mom. We're both grieving her passing, and we have a lot of hurt. And I said, you know, I think that if we work together rather than opposing each other and pointing things out, if we realize we're in the same place of hurt and pain right now, and we work together to make things better, we change our perspective on this so that we know that we're both struggling, I think that we will, I think it will be better. It was amazing to me. Those were really not my words. My words were better than that, but I'm not remembering now. But that was 2008. But amazing to me, absolutely incredibly amazing to me. In a flash, everything changed. His whole combative, and he was a little bit in dementia then, so there was part of that going on, but his whole combative thing toward this didn't do right, that wasn't good, da 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 da. It was just, whoa, calm down. And we treated each other with understanding, with gentleness, with being there for each other. A whole different thing. And I was shocked. I mean, even though it changed in a second. It changed in a second. You did not need to go through all of this incremental, gentle going, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No, it changed. And it changed in such a wonderful, wonderful way. And it was all to do with, uniting and working toward the same goals. I wish that our world didn't spend so much energy and time on combating each other, but we could do so much as human beings if we just work together. But it's the working together, it's the changing the perspective, what really is the thing out there that unites you and ties you together, and how do you work on it? And so, Kim, thank you for that reminder with the thing with your daughter. Is and I wrote in the chat, it's giving her space, but still being close to her and being there for her, so important. I think being there for each other, whether it's within this group, wherever you find it, or sometimes you need to be there for yourself. I think you need to be there for yourself. And Adrian, thank you for bringing all this up. Absolutely true. It's perspective. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Those were lots of great thoughts, and really, really thank you for reminding us of teamwork as well. I think perspective is immediately linked to communication and how we communicate with people, how we're then perceived and received by them, as Cyril was saying. And that in turn leads to teamwork if we want it. And teamwork can do amazing things. Group members within this group are working together and cooperating, and it's all about communication, which is linked to how we see other people and our perspective and what we want out of everything. So I absolutely love that, and really appreciate that, Janet. Thank you so much for that. Yvier has her hand up. Hi, Yvier.
Hi, Adrian. Hello, everyone. I apologize, my camera is off. I'm busy doing my walk today. And so there might be some background noise from cars as they go whizzing by. Well, thank you so much, Adrian, for the topic today. It's amazing how our interpretation, understanding, and perceptions of our realities can actually come to bear on the results that we see in our lives, right? So, and it just brings to my mind that we do have a choice in how we respond, how we choose to understand what's going on, how we choose to describe what's going on. And, I always say to myself, there, but for the grace of God, right? All I have to do is look not too far from where I'm standing. There's always somebody who's worse off than I am. So, when I know I've hit a brick wall or a challenge, rather than take that on and focus on that, minute detail in this grand scheme of things. Because, I mean, what's it Napoleon Hill says? He says, the one thing we focus on, right, we get more of it, it expands, right? So if I choose to dwell on maybe that aspect that's not working so good, I'm going to attract more than that, more of that, right? So it's a choice. And so I say to myself, I'm not denying that that reality doesn't exist, but I'm choosing, one, not to give it an inordinate amount of time, but also two, to rather flip it on its head and say, okay, that may not be going according to plan, but what else do I have that's going according to plan that I can celebrate and focus on? And I find that when I use my energy for the things that are going well, other things start going well that maybe were slow to catch up or hadn't even taken off, the starting line. And so I attract more of the good stuff, right? So, that for me was coming up as you were talking. And it's just amazing how, it boils down to choice. So when John was saying, what things do we have in our lives that help us? For me, it's as easy as it could be a song. I can just put a CD in or, go to Spotify and search for an artist and play, one of their favorite tunes. And that immediately puts me in a good mood, So I said to myself, I haven't got the time or the energy or the emotional bandwidth to be down for too long, right? And I just say, no, this is not how I'm going to spend every waking moment or even any portion of my day. So yes, I don't deny that something is not going right, but I look for what is at hand that could turn my vibrations around. So it might be my favorite motivational speaker. It might be my favorite book. It might be going for a run. It might be going for a walk. It might be making my favorite meal or dessert, whatever it is, right? I find something that resonates with me at the time that I know will change my mood, will raise my vibrations, So there's so much. And when I look around, I don't even have to look very far. There's just so many things I can do that before I'm even halfway through, I've forgotten that I was in a bad mood or, something hadn't quite worked out or somebody had upset me. I'm like, you know what, that's going to happen, right? And let's face it, we're going to get more of that because people are people. So it's like, I can't control how they, treat me or what they say to me or how they react to me, but it's a choice as to how I take on what they're saying. And so most of the time, I don't even let it sit. I brush it away, and if I don't even want to engage in certain conversations, I just excuse myself politely and I walk away. Because life is too short. If anything 2020 has taught us is that life is too short to waste one breath, one moment on non-productive activities, whatever it is, whether it's a thought, whether it's a conversation, whatever it is, it's just not worth it. Rather invest that time and energy, put it into something that's actually going to produce the results you do want to see. And I've always said this, and I probably sound like a broken record saying this, that this was birthed in 2020. This platform, this family, this tribe is no coincidence. I mean, we are all better for it. So you are all my go-to people. I mean, I can't imagine not being on a general session or in a business, life and tools with you, Adrian, or, adventures, in mindset with Stu, or metaphors for success with Wayne. I just can't imagine not dialing into those things, right? Because that has become also what I have at my disposal that raises my vibrations. So, it's just amazing what we have. So let's not dwell on the stuff that's not working right, but let's tap into the stuff that we do have that is working right. And as John always says, let's make spectacles of ourselves, please. Thank you so much, Adrian.
I love it. Love it. We're all trying to make a spectacle. I love it, Ivier. There, everybody is the power of positivity personified for us all. And what Ivier is saying is right. We can change our outlook and our mindset, and we can generate attraction and pull in good things. People are repelled by negativity. They walk away from negative people. Think of your own experience. Do you want to be dealing with someone that's coming across with a downer, negative? You'd rather walk away because it's pulling you down. I know we've got to help people. That's a different thing. But when you're trying to get something positive done, you can attract the right things, as Ivier is saying, by generating positivity and attracting the right things. Thank you, Ivier. That's lots of great thoughts there. And Elmer has his hand up. Great to see you, Elmer.
Hey, Adrian. Hey, everybody. Yeah, great topic. I love the topic of perspective, and always a challenge to follow Ivier as always. But so many of the commenters like touched upon so many great things, um, especially to that point that it's a choice, and we need to realize it's the choice. Do we want to be an optimist of possibilities or a pessimist with limitations? And even the story that Kim and Janet were talking about, like, because even yesterday, like, I sort of had a big argument with my dad, and it was like over nothing. It was over vitamins and taking vitamins. And I was trying to keep my cool, and he just kept nagging and nagging and nagging. And, I was like, get off my back about vitamins. And it's like, I'm going to see him in a little bit, and I'm a little bit anxious, not excited. But like, I love that notion that it is a choice. And, I saw something on the internet where, in the moments of engagement where, you're feeling something, I think it's, how do we remind ourselves that we are starting to get into that perspective of a negative perspective, where like, we feel the physiological changes, like, we start getting heated, or like, our face gets flushed. I mean, I feel like my face is getting flushed right now. But I saw on the internet, I think it's something where even if you just say to yourselves, okay, and then just take a breath, like a moment, and whatever engagement's happening, and then say, this is a choice. Do I want to choose to be in a good mood or in a bad mood? And I think, like, again, going back to just saying, okay, take a breath, and then move on. I mean, to Ivier's point, like, it's how do we catch ourselves in the moment and say, is this the direction that we want to move in? But like, all great points that everyone's been discussing. And I'm going to try as best as possible when I see my dad in like an hour to just be like, okay, Dad, and then just breathe.
Elmer, that's great. We're definitely going to be watching your vitamin intake, that's for sure. We'll be questioning you tomorrow on that. But thank you again. I mean, yeah, a choice. It's come up again and again today. Choosing our perspective is our choice, and it's under our control. We're sitting in the cockpit with the controls. We can fly the plane however we want to fly it. So how are we going to do it? And are we going to land it in the right place? That's come up time and time again today. We've come to the end of the session, but we really have had some brilliant shares today. And I really thank you for that, because there's a lot of thought-provoking material there and some profound stuff from Cyril to make us all think. Thank you, everybody that joined the session. It was wonderful to see you. We have tonight, Ivier, Corporate Curios, Unmissable, with another fantastic story. So if you can be there, it's 10 o'clock UK time or 5 p.m. Eastern time US. And it's always great value, and one of the best storytellers you will hear. So thanks again. It's John Lavenia, Success Mastermind. We're signing off for the day, for the general session, and we'll see you all tomorrow. So please take care and go and grab those goals. Bye, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank
Bye.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you for a great session.
Thanks. Bye.